Welcome to the ParentLife Podcast, a ministry of Fruit Cove Baptist here in Jacksonville, Florida. My name is Jason, and I'm the middle school pastor here at the church. Today we have Pastor Tim, or PT, joining us today. Again, it's good to have you back.
Good to be back. Thank you.
So PT has been going through a sermon series out of Galatians, and it's going to be for a little bit. And one of the topics that keeps coming up is that there's only one gospel. And so we've seen a little bit of pushback, at least I've seen some pushback in student ministry of how can we as Christians say that there's only one right way, there's only one truth. Yeah. And so I want to step back and ask that question, what is the difference between saying that Christianity, what we find in Scripture, is the truth versus a truth or your truth? Is that too narrow-minded for Christians?
Okay, that's a great question, and students are not the only ones asking it. It's a lot of folks are doing that. Paul is very, very fervent about his statement that there's only one gospel, there's only one way to believe the gospel, and it seems to us, again, we are we're becoming a much more tolerant society and culture, and so statements like that seem strident and militant and unnecessarily harsh to some people. But in reality, what Paul is doing is Paul is actually just carrying forward the emphasis that Jesus made about this. This was not Paul reaching back and saying Jesus was the only way. This is Jesus saying, in fact, that we see this very clearly in John chapter 14, verse 6, where Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by me. Again, there are no indefinite articles in that statement. That is very much the is pretty definite in terms of not letting there be any wiggle room there to work with this. Now, again, in our culture, tolerance is a high value. A choice is a high value. We all want to have choices. That's why Starbucks works, like it does, because of all the choices that we could go in Starbucks and choose how we want our coffee. So we are oriented in our culture to having choices, and certainly as a nation, we're a pluralistic nation, which means there are a lot of religious systems and a lot of religious beliefs that are working in America right now. And again, so those things fly in the face of a statement like this that seems so, there's only one way, it's a black and white statement, and there's no give in that anywhere. But I want you to think with me for just a moment about the issue of tolerance. There's three kinds of tolerance. When you talk about tolerance, well, which kind are you talking about? There's legal tolerance, and we should certainly be legally tolerant in America. We are, people have a legal right to believe whatever they want to believe, or as we're learning now with the increase of the nuns, to believe nothing. If you want to believe nothing, then you have every right to believe nothing, or to believe, to worship balloons. Whatever you want to worship, it's okay legally in America, and we should stand up for people's rights to be able to believe those things. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also social tolerance. So in other words, if you are a balloon worshiper and you are in one of those strange religious cults like that, my obligation as a human being is to be socially tolerant of you. I'm not going to hate you because we don't agree on that particular subject. But I still, as a human being, I'm still going to respect you and honor you as a human being. And again, legally, as a person with a right in our nation to believe the way you believe. We don't want to be like an Islamic nation where you just can only have one religion and everybody else gets persecuted or killed because that's not, if you disagree with that. We don't want to be that kind of nation. We don't want to be a part of that. That's intolerance on a huge level. But the reality is we are now at a place where we are being asked to give intellectual tolerance to every idea. In other words, every idea deserves to be treated on the same level, to be given the same regard. So if I come to you and say, Jason, now I don't know anything about technology or about phones, but I've learned this. I've learned that if you will take your phone and take all the safeguards off of it, all the passwords off of it, all the security system off of it, your phone will work a lot faster and a lot smoother, and I think that's a great idea. Now you're going to look at me like, no. Well, I don't think so.
You want my social security number too?
Yeah. So now, but in our culture now, we could look at that before and go, well, no, that's dumb. You can't do that. You're opening yourself up to the world when you do that. But again, in our culture, you no longer have a right to minimize me or to minimize my idea as worse than yours.
Yeah.
Now, none of us would do that, but yet we bring this in, we import this into religion, and we, you know, again, if you disagree with my religious views, you have every right to disagree.
Right.
We're Americans, and people have fought and died for that right.
Right,
okay?
and you have the right to be wrong.
Socially,
fine.
I'm going to be nice to you, even if we disagree. And this is where sometimes we get it wrong as Christians. You don't have to hate somebody because you disagree with them, right?
That's true.
And we don't want people to hate us because they disagree with us. But intellectually, the idea, this is where the parting of the way comes. Because if what Jesus said in this statement is not correct, then Jesus is now guilty of one of the greatest deceptions. He is not just a poor, misguided, misled, you know, Middle Eastern prophet. He is now almost demonic in the sense of, you know, the only way you can get to heaven is to follow me, and we cut off all the other venues, you know, and that's again, this is the battle we're fighting. We're on that kind of battleground, that kind of turf right now, where people are saying, well, you can't believe that because that's unkind. That's, well, what that is, I'm going to be intellectually intolerant. I'm sorry. I'm going to do my phone the way I know to do my phone. You're going to do your phone the way you're going to do your phone. I'm going to be intolerant of your ideas if they are dumb. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to still be nice to you, and I'm going to uphold your right legally.
That's not enough in our culture anymore.
Exactly
is
right.
Yeah,
and so now what we're wanting to do is flatten out these kind of arguments to the point that, you know, what this says, and again, this comes down to your understanding of biblical credibility. Does the Bible tell the truth? And if the Bible tells the truth, then this is true. And if this is true, then you can't say, you know, Jesus said, I'm the only way, I'm the truth and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by me. But if you want to find another way, that's fine. He didn't say that. You know, I mean, there's a whole lot of different ways to get from Jacksonville to Savannah. There's a lot of different roads that you can take. And a lot of people think, well, that's the way religions are. We're all going to the same place. We can just take a different road to get there.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't work with religion. That argument falls apart.
Yeah, I share that analogy with students all the time. That, you know, everyone says God's at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Everybody's just coming up different sides of the mountain to get to God.
Yeah.
But what I remind them of is that God's not on the mountain.
Right.
God became one of us, lived among us, dwelt among us.
And came down the mountain.
Yeah, and now we have the choice of whether or not to follow him.
Yeah.
So I would really encourage parents, as you're going through these topics, especially that part where he was talking about the 3 different types of tolerance. When you're talking with your kids, think that through, because your kids, they need to know what's right. I mean, let's start a step back. We need to know what's right. We need to affirm that in our homes. We need to affirm that in our marriages and affirm that for our children. But then beyond that, they need to know what they believe, why they believe it. But then, like you said, the other tolerances, we need to know how to treat people as Jesus would treat people. Because there's plenty of examples when people came to Jesus and were completely wrong. But he never treated them in a poor manner. So thank you so much for joining us this week. Thanks again, Tim, for joining us and discussing this topic. If you have any more questions about the sermon series that he's going through, you can find that at fruitcove.com/sermons. You can interact with us more on our website. And of course, if you would like to email us, you can reach out at ParentLife@fruitcove.com. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Thanks.